Now, okay.
Now.
How's everyone doing? Welcome to the MMO Grind. I'm Malice. Over there is Zaylen, the man who is apparently taking over for Puka for the near future until Puka decides that he has gotten bored with being bored and comes back.
Puka, this is supposed to be your seat, my friend, right here.
Yeah, he's keeping it warm for you, man. And our guest, JB, a developer from CSE. Pretty much the man over there for the programming plan. And we're hoping to talk to him a little bit about his experience in the industry, where he kind of went to school, what he learned, graduated with what degree, and if that was relevant to getting into what he's doing now, because most of us get college degrees and then go do something else completely.
Isn't that
like, yes, my psychic degree and I'm a programmer. We've all done it. And so at the end, we're going to talk. We're going to lead into a little bit about what he does at CSE. Talk about all the gritty details from a technical standpoint behind the scene, and maybe a little bit about the back end of what he's touched on Ragnarok. So if you're watching, have fun and don't spam our chat too hard with any angry words. Where a lot of your concerns may be under NDA, so.
Trev, I have turned the bots up just for you, so.
All right, well, let's get started. So, JB, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where did you originally? Where were you born? We'll go all the way back to the land of birth.
Yeah, we'll go way back, right?
6 weeks ago.
So I'm from New York originally.
Oh, cool.
West
What
New York,
part?
nice and snowy Buffalo.
Buffalo.
Yeah.
Here.
Syracuse.
So, oh, nice. Yeah, that's pretty close. But I grew up in Buffalo and moved out to the suburbs for high school and stuff. But yeah, it's upstate. Good times.
What's and I assume you do you have a college degree or did you get into the
Right. So college. After high school and stuff, I joined the Army. Did that as a reservist for a little over 7 years with a couple tours in Iraq. And then after my last tour, when I was like finishing up my contract, I went to Full Sail like 2 weeks after I got home from Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah, I did all the paperwork while I was in Iraq and was like, hey, I want to start as soon as possible so I can just like get going into doing games, because at the time I had been running private servers for video games, doing that.
In Iraq, mind you.
Yes, I did. I got internet contracted and stuff set up for that so I could maintain that. But stopped all that when I decided, hey, I want to actually get into games, because it was really a cool thing that I liked. So I went to Full Sail because I just was researching online of what can I do to get into games, and it looked interesting, and I could do it in 2 years. Under 2 years.
If you don't know what Full Sail is basically the Cultic recruitment club for anyone interested in gaming. It's pretty much specialize. They specialize though in game development, programming. It's a tech school basically.
Yeah, they have actually their biggest departments are in film and the recording arts. Those are massive. Their game dev one, they only actually run one class per month. It's like a month by month type deal where they start classes every month, and your like semesters, I guess if you would call it in a way, is just you do 2 classes per month. One of them you do like 3 days a week, the other you do 2 days a week, and the schedule changes sometimes. So sometimes you might have like 20 days straight of classes and then like a week off. So you get that done in anywhere from 21 to 23 months, and that gets you a degree. And my degree is in game development. It's a Bachelor of Science in Game Development is what it's called.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that was like, it's kind of strictly like get into games because I wanted to do games.
So what do they kind of cover, I guess, in game development? Is it like programming a lot, the wide spectrum kind of thing? Like this is how to do some programming light. This is how to do some using tools. This is how to do like terrain and scenario layouts, or what do they kind of
Yeah,
teach
so
you?
they go into a lot of variety. So it is a lot more programming intensive than, at least from what I've talked to other people that have gone to more traditional schools for like with a focus on game development, which is usually like a minor type thing
Right.
in like a computer science degree or some others. So it's very programming intensive where you mostly do C++. And they have design courses as well. Like they teach you how to write a design doc. They do some courses that count as like your English and psychology, but like of game kind of game design theory and stuff of like design a world. Like that was like our English requirement was like design a world that's kind of like Pandora and an origin story for that world. That you can create a game off of. So kind of all the classes tie in mostly, so that's good. But it's mostly programming. The first like 5 months are all like the deep dive, straight hardcore programming courses, where like almost half of students usually drop out from. It would just because programming is just not for everybody.
Right.
And it's kind of intense for especially the high school kids that go there because it's like 40 plus hours a week of straight school.
Well, and most people walk into game development with this. I magically make games. I don't really need to be a programmer, right?
Yeah. So that's kind of what it is. And then, after about 6 months in, you start making your first basic games in a text console. Because you've learned enough to start doing that. And like you do like a console, like inventory and store and stuff, and then work on your first game project halfway through, doing a solo game. And then at the end, the last like 4 months, maybe 5 if you count that one, but 4 months is a just whole like final project of you've got everyone who was in the game dev program. And at the time I was there, all the other artists that wanted to do game art, because they have art programs. And so like they had a choice of doing outsourcing for some other actual companies or work for the final project. Now they don't do that anymore. Now everything's kind of like the outsource. But when I was there, so we had artists and all the programmers.
I'd rather have the choice because I can only imagine that outsourced projects are here, make 10,000 shields.
I don't know. I don't know what it does. That's just what I heard that they do. But as a programmer, programmers still do that whole final project, make a game thing. So we did that. And you basically don't have class the 40 hours a week anymore. You have basically, I think it was like 12 or 16 hours a week of they wanted you in the classroom working on your project as a team, but then you would just, I guess, sign out rooms around the campus or just meet at people's houses and work for that time in order to hit certain deadlines of goals, every other week during that time.
Deadlines is pretty much the true core of life as a dev.
Yeah. So it's a lot of long hours.
We have 40 hours worth of work that need to be done in 10 hours. We're going to need you to do that in 8.
Just type faster, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So what was it that actually like drew you into all this?
Into going into game development in general?
Yeah.
Well, I used to play a lot of games. I still do.
Used to.
So I used to play a specific game called Two Moon / Decaron, which is a Korean grindfest MMORPG that is all big open world PvP. Probably still has some of the best open world PvP that I think has been great and fun in that game. It's no longer really that great, but at the time,
Working the
they used
corner
to
wasn't
have
paying the bills.
they used to have a biweekly siege event where like you would like take a castle and like you basically be like one guild on the server could hold the castle for 2 weeks, and that gave you like some benefits like a bunch of money for your guild and extra portals and teleports and stuff. So I decided to make a private server in order for my guild to train because it was only open every those 2 weeks. So I created a private server for myself for my guild just so we can train to win that, which we were winning it, and we held it for like 10 months. But like I created the private server just so we could train.
We want to be extra elite.
Yeah, we wanted to be extra elite and try hard. So I did that, and then one of my friends was like, why don't you just let other people play in it, because you have it and you're paying for the servers that we are training in, a couple days a week. So I was like, okay, fine. And then that just exploded. And then 3 months later, I had 30,000 accounts created on that server. And yeah, so that just kind of
and then the
blew
lawsuit
up.
ensued.
No, actually, I never had any lawsuits. The Korean company that ran it at the time was not super pursuant of, DMCA, whatever stuff. I mean, it wasn't great to do it, but that's what got me into it. Cool. Yeah, and so from there on, I was like, this is a lot of fun. I like doing this, like, game stuff, running it, and we tried to dev stuff and had to do like decompile their code and stuff to add features.
Yeah,
so it was more the experience of having a server that a lot of people wanted to get on and running that, more so than an actual game itself that was like, oh, I love this, I want to be able to do this. So it was more the experience in the game. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was the experience of running it and figuring out how to add features to it, and just having that whole community of like people that liked the stuff that I and the people that helped me on the server, because there was a lot of people that helped. We had like 15 people like volunteered on our staff that devved stuff for it, and that was just a lot of fun. And I liked making a thing that people played and enjoyed. So
yeah, definitely. In general, developing a game, the nice part about game development is that whether you're doing a project like that or you're making a full game, is that the cycle is so hard, but when you get that, it ends, and there's this fan base that comes in, and you're just like, oh, it's all my effort was worth something. It's like that is what's probably the coolest thing that game development ever brought me, was that whole entire, wow, people really like this. They really enjoyed the work that I put into whatever it was,
Oh yeah, definitely. That's where it's all at. Like I love that feeling.
So the route in which you took to get into being a developer, of just jumping straight into Full Sail, would you do it again knowing what you know now and where you've been and all that, or would you do something different?
I definitely would. I thought Full Sail was great for me because mostly because of the time and like the deep dive into getting into learning the program in such a condensed schedule. It kind of forced me to not slack off on it like I had done when I previously attempted some standard colleges.
Because none of us gamers are slackers.
Yeah.
Standard college did me so well.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it worked great for me. I mean, that's how I got my job at CSE. Not specifically from directly right after. I got another job after Full Sail. I worked for a company doing contract work for Disney. I did some software that's down at Epcot on some rides, like the Test Track ride. How there's that whole software that designs cars and stuff. Company I worked for kind of managed it. So I didn't write a lot of the software. I wrote a lot of the deployment software for it, and kind of managed the deployment of it, as well as a couple other things there. Did some software for a Disney cruise ship attraction, and some stuff for Starwood.
So here's a question that people would probably want to know. If you're writing stuff on a contract basis for places like Disney and whatnot, did you get to go?
Oh, I spent months at Disney. Like I was at Epcot for months. That was mostly because of the installation. Like when I was doing the software ahead of time, I was in Virginia, but when for installations, I was there for months, and it's not as fun as it sounds out to be, because when you're on site at Disney, they want you to work like all the time, and you're pulling like 80, 90, 100 hours a week in the server rooms, because they're like, why is the thing's not working? It needs to work now. And so you're just sitting in a server room and like running to machines, like trying to get everything to work. Yeah, the mouse is very, very, very strict on getting stuff done.
Narthesis says, so when all the Disney stuff breaks down, they can blame you? Or is it just the one ride?
Well, I would say that at this point, it's been a while.
It's been a while. I think it works. I mean, one of the things that I wrote specifically myself, and I was the only one that did anything on, I haven't got a call that it's broken, which my phone number was in there. But
so DG says, this explains why you like to dress up as a princess.
We could save that for the end, too. Yeah. DG, send me some pictures, and I'll get it up on the stream. So you went from
Photoshop Go.
You went straight from Full Sail into a couple of contract stuff, and then is CSE kind of the first studio you've stepped into, or have you been other places?
Yeah, so CSE is the first game studio. Like I had mentioned when I said I was working in Virginia at the company that was doing contract work for Disney and some other stuff. It just happened. They gave me a really good offer after college. Like I was interviewing at some game studios too. And I was like, hey, I have these other interviews to go to. And they're like, well, what if we give you this offer? And I was like, okay, sure, I'll take it. But
a lot of money.
Yeah, so I was in Virginia. And I saw on a Facebook group from Full Sail, like the Full Sail alumni group, Dave Hancock, who is former employee at CSE, had posted, hey, we're a game studio that's like making a MMO, and we're in Virginia and we're looking for people. So I was like, what is this thing? And I looked it up. I didn't know anything about it. This was like right after the Kickstarter. I hadn't heard about CU or CSE at all. I looked it up, and it was 20 minutes away from where I was living. So I was like, okay, I will.
That's hard to argue.
I'll just apply, see what happens. I mean, I got a good job. I'm getting paid well. I'm doing good here. But we'll see what happens, because I want to get into games. And I was like, this sounds awesome, and I love MMOs, and it's fantasy-based MMO, PvP-based, and sounded good to me. I was like, this could be fun. Then it worked out. then I got the job.
See, I'm a little jealous. When I went to go work for MJ, I had to move all the way from Central Illinois all the way across the country, and their offer was because I started off as a GM. Instead of coming in with a college degree, I started as a GM and worked my way up. So I got to start off at $25,000 a year. I moved across the country for $25,000 a year just to get into the game industry.
Ouch!
But it got you out of Central Illinois. I mean, wasn't that worth it right there?
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, so it was chasing a dream job. So,
as DG says, win-win. JB, you've done a few things. What's like the biggest thing that you're most proud of as far as you've written / what's the thing you've had the most fun writing? And that's okay if it's with CSE at this point, you can't talk about it, but just in general, is there something that you've done that you're just like, that was me type of thing?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, honestly. I wrote a lot of stuff for CSE. Let's see, what do I think is the coolest thing that I like a lot is probably our on our API server, which I wrote most of that. One of the cool things I like is I wrote a communication protocol for talking between our C# servers for doing remote procedure calls between all of our servers, which we've been using for communication for certain things like state transfer and when events happen between servers, they can send the messaging across. As an example, when it was formerly used, when someone would create a group and join a group, right? they would make a call to our web API server, which would then use this to call to the group server and to the game server and like notify them, hey, this person's wanting to join this group, and then get a result back of, hey, they joined or they didn't join, or these are errors, and then notify game server, hey, this person's in this group now, and get all that back and forth. And it's more not because like that's revolutionary to do. It's just I like the ease of doing it. I think it's pretty easy as far as the interface of working with it. Some other people may disagree, but I find it super easy to work with.
We all have our things that we like that other people are just like, what the heck is wrong with you? I mean, look at Malice.
Yeah. Then I think
What?
the second thing I really like, the second thing I really like is we run a GraphQL server for which is a query language for getting data from our API server. So like if you want to know who's in my group and what is their names and their health and whatever, what's in my inventory and all that stuff, you can just make a query to our API server. And this is like kind of a publicly available thing that for CU people will be able to do as long as you have the proper access key. You can get tons of information about yourself, like all of what's in your inventory, what you've got equipped, what your current stats are, and all this stuff. And third-party applications will be able to use it to create a myriad of apps and whatever they want.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it all customer-facing where we can...
it's all customer-facing. Cool. And so there's like almost everything about the game that is not adverse to gameplay and current gameplay. So like current events, like a lot of that stuff is not in there specifically because it could cause problems. Basically stuff that would basically adversely affect the game and making people know things that they shouldn't know.
Like where a stealth player is located.
Yeah, stuff like that. But it's like, and it's an insane amount of information. Because I play Eve a lot. I really like how they have a very public API and tons of information is available for that. Tons of tools. I made ours do more, which I really like. And it's not to say anything bad about them. Theirs is great. It's just like ours was built from the ground up of making that available to do.
Right.
So as a developer, do you play these other games to then kind of like look at the stuff that they're doing and go, I could totally do that and so much better, and then like steal the idea type of thing? Or is the
I wouldn't
game
say
still your
steal.
escape?
I'd say I
borrow the idea.
Inspiration.
Inventively borrow.
But 100%, yeah, definitely play other games all the time. I play a ton of games. Malice will accuse me of hopping between games all the time. As we're in the same guild, and I can't stay in one for more than like a couple weeks usually. But yeah, definitely
the
get
game
inspiration
kangaroo.
from them.
So what would you say is the most inspirational game for you then?
Ragnarok Online. Not no. What was the what's the old ancient game you play?
RuneScape.
RuneScape. That's it.
RuneScape's great. There are some nice things about that game, but unfortunately, not a lot that applies too well to
modern gaming.
Modern gaming. But yeah, no, like Eve definitely, like their whole how their API works and stuff. Like I like how that works. I taken some inspiration from them, like how they generate keys and stuff and give out, like how they handle giving access to third-party applications and other players about your character. Like they've done a really good job at that. So I've kind of taken a lot of their inspiration and how we're going to do that in a different but kind of similar fashion. Let's see.
DG says Arc has inspired some CSE ideas. You say Arc is an inspirational thing, and then Narcissus wants to know if there's going to be dinosaurs in CU. Wouldn't a dragon technically be a dinosaur?
I mean, there is technically one that flies around in the game, so yeah, why not?
I don't know. It depends how you want to define it.
We need more definition, Narcissus.
Giant lizard that breathes fire and flies. That's dragon.
As far as dinosaur goes.
most of those aspects, except for the breathe fire part. I mean, that's a dinosaur.
Yeah. Let's see what else. Oh, Destiny 2 is a good one too, because specifically the way they handle their inventory. So one of the things that they do that they did is allow you to manage your entire inventory through their API. So you can, outside of the game, change your equipment, for example, and equip and unequip items and pull them in and out of storage. I'm not saying you can do that in CU. You can equip things that you have in your inventory through our API without being in the game. You can be in the game or be out of the game for that, and it'll work right now. But the Destiny's was really nice because they had a nice third-party website that allowed you to do that kind of equipment management and stuff, which was not very fun to do inside the actual game, but people were able to make websites for it that made that a lot easier, which was nice.
Now, if I remember correctly, this was a through the API engine that was originally, I believe that was through API. That's the original kind of idea for the chat system before it got nixed because Discord and you guys didn't reach mutual happiness. But weren't you going to try to pull Discord as basically the chat system for CU at one point?
Yeah, at one point we did talk to Discord about that, and Discord created a whole SDK for essentially running a Discord client on your computer that you would be able to communicate to from your game client and kind of serve as the chat for a video game or do notifications and stuff. However, they abandoned that project in favor of moving forward with their store and their game stores and other Nitro things. So
any money. That was
I would have rather gone with creating game content, but
they
microtrans is life, right?
Yep. So Narthisa says the dragon flying around in Ragnarok should be a main boss. Maybe it descends and attacks every 10 rounds or something and spits persistent fireballs on the grounds between. That would be cool.
But CU and Ragnarok both have the continuous theme from the is that supposed to be Andrew's thing? I heard a rumor that was Andrew. It was supposed to be Andrew flying around as a dragon.
Before Christmas one year, Andrew just decided to throw a dragon that flies in the sky forever. So he just did that in like sometime like after work one day, and they called it the dragon kite at first. Actually, the Dargon kite because he spelled it wrong. But it became the Dargon that was just flying forever in the sky, and then now it's made it into Ragnarok as a actual better modeled dragon that is now always there flying around. Yeah, it was at first just like basically a T-posed dragon. That's why he called it the kite, because it was like a model that was just kind of stuck there with its wings out forever and just.
Yep. It was like pretty weak. I'm like, so flat? Do anything?
So this is kind of a quirky one.
Ooh, quirky ones.
I mean, it seems like it would have kind of a duh answer, but you never know. Do you feel that playing lots of different games has made you a better developer, or do you feel that has really any positive or negative impact on your ability as a developer?
I say it definitely does, because when you play all these games, you can see what does and doesn't work, and then you can take those ideas. I mean, games are all built on top of each other. I mean, right. Most games, there's like very minimal like original ideas. Everything's built off of somebody else's idea. I mean, games just in general are all like built on D&D, right? Like RPGs and MMOs. So it's just like building on somebody else's ideas of what they did well or didn't do well and being like, oh, I like they did that, but I wish it did this. So in your game, like, well, I kind of want that feature, but I want it to do this slightly differently or do this thing as well or not do that thing that it did. Definitely 100%. Like take a lot of stuff from other games of like, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. I don't want to do this because of this and this, you know.
And I would also say in the reverse too. Once you have dev experience, you keep looking back at old games and going, "Oh my god, they did!" Even though it's a steaming pile of crap of a game, you're like, "Wow, you did this one gem of a thing, like the most awesome way possible." I can't even no, I couldn't improve on that. That's a great idea, or that was a fantastic idea, and with this one tweak, you know, it would have made this game, but everything else sucks, so whatever. But like, you get to see things through a different lens. You don't just play a game. You kind of it's like being a person who repairs cars. You go drive a car and you're like, I like the ooh, it's mushy here. It's it's, you really kind of you break it down more in your head, where you're just like, nope, I'm just a person who drives a car. I know how to drive a car. Well, you view things differently. It's just like you become more analytical.
Do you feel
and also
go ahead.
I tend to play games a little bit more than I would if like a lot of people are like, oh, this is terrible right away. I'll be like, well, I like this one feature and I want to explore it more. I mean, I still hop between them because I can usually get all of what I can get out of a game that I feel is important in like under a couple of weeks or a week or two. But
I blame it on your addiction to Monster, really. But you're just so you just fly through games. So.
Well, like leveling curve is so fast nowadays. Like if the new game comes out and you can't get max level in like 2 days, 3 days, then like, yeah, that's pretty rare. There are still some, but those are the ones I'll play longer. But you can definitely see something. But like I see this little feature and I'm like, these other things are really bad. But I understand why they're bad, and I understand probably what the problem was that they had with this, and okay, I can get around it. Or, a lot of people seem to say, a lot of developers will say like, oh, I see it and it makes me not want to play it because I'm like, I could fix that. I don't like to go that way. I just like to think that's fine.
There's a lot of people in various professions and whatnot, and like I'm in live event production, and I go to other events. I just sit there and I pick apart all the stuff, and it bothers me. It's difficult to enjoy those things. But here I hear you talking where you see those things, you've picked it apart, and it's like, okay, I actually want to go and figure out more of what they've done, why they've done that, and kind of thing, which is a very different way of looking at it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I figured I'd rather want to enjoy things.
Yeah. But I guess being able to enjoy those things rather than having that innate urge to want to fix something, or I wouldn't do it that way because it's crap, or that makes it difficult here and it bothers you. Having that just personality of, oh, I'm just going to go enjoy this anyway because it's a little different. That's a really
but I can
cool
see
thing.
Why I wouldn't do something that way and just be like, okay, well, I'll remember not to do that way if I do that in a game or something similar.
Well, and I would say that JB and I agree on this subject also, is that you look at the thing and you go, this is not done how I would do it. Now, did they just not do it right? Or is there something else here that's preventing it from actually doing it this other way? So it's like, because there's such everything in it, especially in an MMO, is so networked and connected together that it's like, if this thing does this, well, it does impact like the rest of the game. So like you have to kind of understand sometimes where that falls. You go, oh, I see why they did it that way, but I probably went down the line would have changed the thing that should have been fixed that made me do this. But I at least get it, like.
Yeah, and that seems to happen a lot more the longer you are working in games. Like when I first got out of college or first started working, like it was more of like, oh, why are they doing that? They're just so dumb. But then I'm like, oh, you know what? There's probably this other thing that's happening. So they had to do this because of this. So I'm not going to hate them for it.
It becomes a workaround,
Yeah, because workarounds are like, oh, there's probably a million reasons. I mean, who knows how their engine is set up and how their code is set up. There could be some extenuating circumstance that they wanted to do it the right way, but they couldn't.
So I definitely experience that a lot when I play now. It's just like I'll like go at something and I'll be like, stop and think, go, well, why would that do that way? There's got to be a reason. These guys aren't idiots. They work for Ubisoft or they work for whoever. It's like this isn't like some like little mobile company that hired some kid off their.
Well, I mean, they could be idiots.
Well, they could, but mostly that usually is up the chain.
Yeah, it also makes me a little bit less helpful when like I'm gaming with people and they're like, "Hey JB, why does this game do this thing?" And I'm like, I mean, there could be a million reasons. I don't know. I can't really answer for another company of why they did something a certain way. I can be like, maybe they did it because of this, but I don't even know because code bases are so different. There's not a ton of code sharing in the game dev world.
In America.
In America, yeah.
Gotta be clear about that because like you look at the Korean market and stuff like that. The reason why they produce 100 MMOs a week is because they all just kind of create some base engines and some base code and they pass it around and they just sell that crap around to each other for the most part. And so there's a lot more homogeny going on with their industry than America, which is like, you better figure out how to build everything from the ground up because no one's going to share anything with you.
Wait, question from the chat for JB. How many chickens does it take to kill a lion?
I don't know.
This is where you say cluck off.
Yeah.
So have you always programmed more of the API switchbacks than like actual like gameplay and things like that, or is that something that you're kind of working towards, is getting into the more gameplay side of things?
Well, when I started at CSE, I didn't. I worked into that because it was a hole that needed to be filled. I started out at
I met that girl.
Yeah, yeah, nice.
Tactful, I know.
Yeah. The first things I started on was the animation system and like asset imports and stuff and tools. So I used to do that. I originally applied as a tools developer, but they told me I didn't have enough experience to be a tools developer. You weren't enough of a tool? So I got hired as a gameplay programmer and ended up doing tools because there was no tools guy. Until both.
What? So wait. You wanted to get hired as a tools guy, but they wouldn't hire you as a tools guy and pay you to be a tools guy. So they hired you as something potentially less, paid you less, but then had you do tools anyway.
I don't know about pay in the positions, but like I applied as a tools programmer. I was told I couldn't be a tools programmer, so I got to be a gameplay programmer. But at the time, there wasn't anyone else doing tools, so I ended up just doing tools anyways. Along with other gameplay stuff. So I did like an older version of the animation system, which Andrew has since revamped a couple times. Did a lot of like our asset imports and exports and our like the base framework of our editor and stuff. Way back in the day before Bull came on board. And basically when Bull came on board, he started taking over that stuff. I handed a lot of that off to him.
Go Bull.
We at the time lost one of our UI guys, Bryce. He left the studio, and I was like, well, somebody needs to do this. I have a lot of experience doing web programming because I had done it since high school. So I was like, hey, our UI is web stuff. Can I, start working on this? And then, I needed APIs servers to talk to and stuff. So I was like, I just started writing that too. And it's kind of, that became my kind of primary thing. Just out of necessity of it needed to be done and I knew how to do it. Or knew more than most people to figure out how to do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's going kind of back to API. So do you prefer games that have robust API like World of Warcraft, things that Bethesda does, whatnot, where they really support third-party involvement?
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, if my opinion of a game like goes from like here to like here, if they have like API support, which really makes me sad about Ubisoft games because they never do that. I wish they did, but like games that World of Warcraft, Eve, and others. Like, it's really great. I really like doing that because I like to make some tools just for fun to mess around with the game data. And I've helped with a few different sites, and I even helped with one, like I said, with Ubisoft with Division 2. I was helping a friend doing the Division Builder website, but there was no API, so data had to be scraped from the game, and we're just like go in the game and like read it, and it was just messy and it's just a pain to work with, because there's no game data available. But like Eve, as I keep bringing it up, it's like one of the best examples of a game that has a open public API for game information. It's just the amount of tools and applications and stuff you can make for it is amazing. And like WoW's UI, how customizable and stuff the UI is another aspect of it. Which
interesting question. What are your thoughts on what Blizzard is doing with their the whole API drama over there?
Is this like recent stuff?
Yeah. So
I'm not on top of that, so
they just declared they own everything. And so if you are a producer of stuff and content third party, they're now like, yep, you are now owned by us. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
This is a reaction to fallout from the Dota stuff. You've got a studio that takes an idea and they kind of make a third-party thing on it, and then that grows and goes crazy and then gets sold off, and then the court tells Blizzard to, screw off because, no, it's not yours. Now they've just said, nope, it's ours now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally not in favor of it. I can't speak from a studio standpoint on the stance of that. I haven't really read too much about it, but from what you're saying, yeah, I'm very much a fan of open source and things being open and shared. And people want to make third-party apps. I think they should own it, like like developing for Ark, mods for Ark, those things. And the survival game modding communities like have made those games so much better. And if they had that whole ownership thing, like they tried to do with what Bethesda's mods thing, like it just doesn't work as well. Doesn't foster as open of a community and as large of a community in order to get great features into a game.
It builds a passionate fan base. Your fan base is hooked because they're writing content for your game. Like, they're that excited about your game that they're like, hey, what would be cooler if I could make Fallout 4 with prettier colors and better character models and this, that, and the other thing. That means they really like your game. And that motivates other people to get excited and go download those things and be like, wow, this game's even cooler the 45th time through I'm playing the game now because I have these new mods. To me, yep. I think it pays for itself in the sense of advertisement, that it keeps if you're an MMO, keeps your player base going, your player base gets more invested, and from a single player standpoint, it's advertisement. It's people going, hey, cool, and you can do all this neat stuff, and I heard there's this app that does this. I've never played Skyrim, but I watched a video on YouTube of a guy that turned all the dragons into choo-choo trains or whatever like that. LOL. Or Macho Man Randy Savage. Woo! Like, I got to go download this game and check it out,
I mean, Skyrim is like one of the perfect examples. Like, how many people have bought Skyrim and bought it probably more than once?
Yep. And
because of different platforms and everything, and like, and for the mods.
Kind of going along those lines, Drunken God is asking, what do you think is missing from MMOs today? From your standpoint of view.
I think more fat people.
From newer MMOs, the modding is definitely not there. Like, it hasn't been there in most of them. Like the UI modding,
the ability for outside sources to mod your game, and to have like as in depth of UI modding like you could with World of Warcraft. I think that really helped that game and other games. If they had that, they would have had it would have helped them a lot. I mean, I can't
speak for certain, but I would have played them more if they did, because I didn't like a lot of the standard interfaces in a lot of games. And the data being available on the API, I mean, I bring this up all the time because I love public APIs and data, but having that data available, like, Mouse was saying, it really makes you invested into it, and you can have these tools and websites to go to, and you're not playing the game, but you're thinking about the game, and then you can like be on your phone and be playing things about the game while not actually in the game. Doing like skill builds and looking up researching of items and stats and everything. It kind of keeps you in that mindset of always wanting more.
Right.
And like it's not so much about just like feeling like I can walk away and like, I forget about it. When you're not actually playing, you just forget about it.
Forget about it.
Yeah. Gotta keep them thinking about it.
Yeah, gotta be that earworm that they just keep singing your song on repeat. Furthering on to things in MMOs, would you say that you are much more of a PvPer, a PvEer? Do you like role play? Are these all multiple levels of the same thing? Do you like all the aspects of that?
So I PvP and PvE a lot. I tried RP. I'm not very good at it because I just start laughing. So it doesn't work out so well. And then people are like, you need to stay in character and all this. But no, like it depends on the game. So some games I'm like hardcore, just PvP only. Some games I strictly PvE. Like World of Warcraft, for me was just PvE because I didn't really like the PvP in that game personally. I don't know why. It just didn't appeal to me. Probably because I was playing Korean style PvP and it was very different at the time, like right before I played WoW. But I got into raiding, and like raiding was amazing. That was like my first time getting into raids, playing WoW. Like I was so addicted to that. But then when other games come along, especially like survival games and stuff, like I just murder everybody. So
something that I always feel that, and it's so there's a balance between being a role player, a person who is actually typing or talking in chat or whatever like that in character, as per instead having a game environment that naturally embodies the ideas of roleplay. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
But like I remember old games like, you get an Asheron's Call and things like that. And there's like, you could write in a book, you could name your weapon, you could do all these like little things that were just like, but they were like, they felt very immersive. They helped immerse you into that game, even though you weren't like, how art thou, traveler? They were like, you're just like, what's up, bro? But still, that still immersed you mentally into the game. And to me, I feel that's something that games have kind of dropped as well in the larger picture. And because of that, I feel that it doesn't make players stick to those games, particularly in the MMO genre, where they're like, oh, well, okay, I have achieved the... It's much like designing, like you said, designing mods. It's all about getting in your head and staying there, right?
Yeah.
And they rather do a Pavlovian do dailies or a Pavlovian like spend $9.99 to like boost your character or something like that. I feel that like they could get into people's heads with like going back to that kind of role play environment, not role play as in going out and doing those like actual like acting.
Yeah, well, I definitely will say that like for me personally, I'm not as a huge fan of that kind of stuff. I don't really seem to care about it myself. But
fair enough.
When it comes to CU, I'm building all that stuff in there because Ben and Mark are super into that stuff. And they want all that, when you craft the thing, you can name it. You can just add notes to talk about it. You can have like character backstory and all that stuff. So we're putting that in CU.
A PvP game with an RP. Okay, this is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's more like it's pretty simple to add this stuff to our UIs, right? So like just adding a name to a weapon. I mean, they're little things that don't take a lot of work that we're putting in, and I think it's pretty cool that we're putting it in. Just adding a little description box on your weapon or on your crafting recipes, or you could just write notes and just be like, I made this sword with blah 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 for blah 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 with the summoning of this or whatever, whatever you want to write.
You kind of have to with a game that has such a rich lore background, like the era of Camelot. I mean, if you didn't have the ability for people to immerse themselves in, I mean, it would be really kind of a cheap and almost fake feeling game, I would think. So it's really neat you guys are doing that. That's great.
Yes, and Narth, you can call your weapon Greg if you'd like.
Hey,
and take it to a cow level.
Old Greg. It's got to be old Greg.
And most importantly, other people will see what you named your weapon as. It's not just like you see it kind of thing.
Greg, the destroyer of cows.
Yeah, so if you name your sword Greg, the destroyer of cows, and you give it to somebody else, they'll see that it's named Greg, the destroyer of cows.
So is there like an unofficial cow level, given that we have a corpse chucker and Mark has always been talking about taking cows and chucking them over corpse walls? I mean, would that be...
I don't know. Mark likes that. I don't know. I don't know.
Cow level. So what we really need to do is shift into the Veil. And when we're in the Veil, from there, we can find the cow level.
Yeah, just find the cow somewhere. You'll find some cow somewhere.
It's beautiful. So, obviously, can't give us a deadline as much as everybody in the room would love a deadline for CSE, for Camelot Unchained. But when this project wraps up, and this is an industry thing, everybody moves on. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people move on. They look at the next horizons. They look at what other games that they may be chasing, be interested in getting involved in, and stuff like that. If tomorrow the studio closed, what type of game, if you were going to stay in the game industry, would you go for? Would you stick in MMOs? Would you go for single player games? Would you is there anything in particular you would like, especially if you had like full control, like they're like, you're now the producer of this and you have massive control over the content and everything like this? What style game would you prefer to, if you had absolute 100% control to make your dream game, as it were?
With absolute power, I would do a survival style like game with massive numbers of players in a futuristic Magitech world. And that's what I would really like. And kind of like like survival as in like, Arc style and stuff, but like with, a lot more players than you can do. But I really like
over there.
Yeah, I think their max is like maybe 150 or something like that on like the private servers now.
Got it.
So somebody start a Kickstarter for JB so he can get his own studio up and going, and then you can sign on with him to do the Magitech survival.
That would be a lot of fun, I think. I mean, I like a lot of sci-fi stuff, and I like survival genre.
I feel that that is something vastly missing in the MMO genre, is the near future or like world, like only on Earth kind of future kind of games. We don't really have cyberpunk or low sci-fi that
I have a whole like lore thing that I've like, I wrote while I was in college, but I'm not going to go into too much detail on that.
Kickstarter,
but,
JB.
Like, yeah.
Come on, Kickstarter.
See, if I can get JB to sign on to my Cyberpunk game idea, then maybe we can do that.
We could collaborate.
Collaborate.
Do you read the Dark Tower series, JB?
I do not. No. Should I? Is this something I should put on Audible on my list?
It is definitely weird.
Weird.
If you
okay.
like weird.
I mean, dude, you have to admit, even if you like the Dark Tower series, you don't know what the hell is going on for several books.
Bobo says,
I've been going
loved
through a lot of sci-fi stuff, like sci-fi series on Audible. Like mostly like a lot of them are like humans get contact with aliens, then go up and fight space wars and stuff with them or against them, or depending. Kind of more like modern humans get put into like futuristic alien dealing with stuff.
It's a mix between post-apocalyptic Western and magic.
Oh, interesting.
It's Stephen King's desire to connect every book he's ever written into one hub, and the Dark Tower, the world of the Dark Tower, is the hub that connects all of his books together.
Okay, nice. I will put that on my list. I have some Audible credits remaining because the series that I'm currently waiting on don't have the next book out yet.
I watched the movie on Netflix, says Narth.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, that sucked.
Narthees has just wasted hours of his life.
And how's it going, Gladius? I assume that's you on Plague State account.
That's him on Plague State. Because look, Gladius.
Uh-oh. It's here.
Was the Dark Castle, is that the one with the puppets? On Netflix?
Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal. Yeah. Dark Crystal.
And no sooner does Gladius get into chat, but he gets nerfed by the chat bot.
Kablam!
Happens every stream. Somebody gets beat down.
Nightbot is too strong.
Yep. Dark Crystal is like I read the original and watched the original movie, all good stuff. Fantastic. I tried to watch the new series, and I don't know, man. I can't do puppets no more.
Yeah, the puppets were freaking me out. I watched like halfway through the first episode, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's just too weird. The puppets were like, they're like pretty well done, but like too well done that it kind of looked like it was like a newer animation, but they're puppets, so they were just moving weird and wrong.
Yeah. It's like, all right, the creepy gelflings are creepy.
With the stringy hair. Yeah, it was just bad.
Like everything. Like there isn't a race in there where you're like, oh, that looks cool. It's everything looks dark and creepy, you know? What the fuck does Nightbot know? I don't even know why Nightbot exists. So, you know, I mean.
Hey, Nightbot just nerfed him because he tried to post a link, you know? It owns your soul, says DG. Yep, that's pretty much correct.
I think we should have links and pictures. I want streaming beams personally. I mean,
and then you get into spammers and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, but
otherwise, you just have people like linking the fish emoticon or whatever like that on repeat. Stuff like that. Yeah. Exactly what JB just did.
But that's the point of Twitch chat. Like,
right.
I don't know. Like, they let me do that, so I didn't get banned. But like spamming Twitch emotes is like half of what Twitch chat is all about. It's Twitch culture. Yep. Right. It's how you I turned the
spamming down. It's just the links that I have still disabled. But
we're hitting about the end of our show, so we're gonna delve a little bit more into things that you've built at CSE, and so pretty much you've done lots of back-end work, but I've also know that you've done a lot of the UI work as well. I know we've discussed like groups and raids and a lot of other content like that. So are we able yet to talk about a lot of that content? Has that actually stabled out yet? Has there finally been a more grand decision, or is it still very fluid? Because last I think I saw, we don't have the crazy trillion health boxes anymore.
All right. Well, UI wise, yeah, we reduced down the bunch of health bars to a single health bar now, which is great. That is more towards a direction of where we're going UI wise. But yeah, a lot of the current stuff in game is under NDA. But yeah, as far as what I've worked on, yeah, like the UI kind of overall layout design and like architecture, API servers, all of our social systems, kind of doing the design for that as well as implementation. So like your parties and guilds and
alliances,
raids, not alliances because there isn't one.
Alliances.
I specifically feel that we don't need one, which we disagree on and we've had discussions about. But
literally near fist fights, drunk having fist fights.
So really quick, people listening, please feel free to ask some questions, but remember that JB may not be allowed to answer certain questions, so don't feel hurt if he can't, and he'll just say, I can't talk about that, and we'll move on. But please feel free to ask and that kind of stuff. Gladius wants to know if Mark knows you're here.
I don't know.
He doesn't know. He doesn't care.
Which is no.
Probably not.
But that doesn't mean that we want to violate NDA because
we've had a standing thing that we can go on these kinds of things, provided we know what and what not to talk about. Which I've been at the studio for it'll be 7 years this summer.
Woo!
Yeah,
you've been milking that place for that long, huh?
If you want to call it that, and working hard on this stuff, trying to get it out, get it done.
You've been doing a lot of crunch time, I assume,
especially recently, yeah. But it's not too often. Like we don't crunch a lot, which is really good about just the studio in general. Mark tries to avoid
7 years, mind you.
Yeah, like if we were crunching a lot, like some studios are in constant crunch. If we were crunching a lot, it probably would have gotten done sooner, but everyone would be burned out and not happy. And
so, what is the most exciting thing that you've done in CU that you can? Did you already ask this, Malice?
What?
The most exciting thing that you've done or that you guys have done that you can talk about within CU?
Well, he was pretty much talking about the API. That's kind of
the API and tech and stuff.
Yeah. I was probably typing to our chat.
I mean, like,
it was your question originally. You asked it twice.
Currently related to groups, our CU group system is in a state of being broken because we were changing things and haven't fixed it. But, like, for example, you can, when I fix it again, how it all ties in together. If you are logged in on a third-party application as your character, which the stuff will be available, but you'll be able to get real-time updates for party members just through the API. So you could have a mobile app, whatever, that shows your party health and for whatever reason, if you want.
Could I be at work and talk to my guild or my order? On my
100%.
phone? Okay.
Yeah, actually, I just redid our whole chat server because that was XMPP based. I rebuilt that using protobufs in our custom protocol. But given our library, which has a protocol defined in it, anyone can make an application that talks to our chat servers.
So we could, in theory, create an API link between that and Discord to have a channel that talked to the guild in the game.
Yeah, if you make a Discord bot that, for example, reads your Discord chat and translates the things between the two, you could definitely do that.
Accomplish the hopes and dreams of what we really actually wanted out of when you guys originally were like, we're going to do this thing with Discord. I was like, oh my God, this will be great.
Okay, we have a couple questions. Gladius, When CU launches, are you going to have a sweet Manticore mount like Malice had in War as a dev? Or will you have a dragon named Greg?
I mean, that would be cool.
Bobo wants to know, on a personal level, do you like what CU is aiming to be, and what is your favorite feature in it?
I do like the whole tri-realm PvP, RVR aspect of what CU is, and where we're trying to go with a lot of our direction of, especially things I'm associated with, with our UI modding and API servers, and just the constant battle and how that's all going to intermix with each other and handle with progression. And there's a lot of complexity of like how we keep the war going that I really like. Specifically, also a lot of the campaign system, which is one of our social systems that I came up with, that I'm really looking forward to implementing for CU.
Do you feel that a lot of these are also the things that are going to kind of play into what will keep people engaged and not burn out quickly from just the same repetitive nature of it?
That is the intent. Yeah, that is the intent, is trying to do things so that people aren't just feeling like it's doing the same thing. You're not just running in circles, capturing, keeps or whatever.
We're not just playing Fortnite, essentially.
No one wants the game to devolve into what Warhammer did, which was PV Door. It's what happened. The game started to lose population, and then there was just raids, and they would swap castles, and they would just run around like this, and then flip zones.
Yeah, that's no fun. Just to swap objectives. Yep. The world should be changing and evolving, and like everything that you do should be meaningful. And also it should be balanced in such a way that you can't just win as a faction, because then it's not fun either if you're too overpowered.
Do you think that the studio on principle will hold to and actually be able to maintain that idea of not catering to the whiny minority group that complain about, oh, this is hard and we can't do this? Is MJ and the studio the type that's going to be like, tough, this is what the game is, play it or leave type of thing?
I mean, as far as with all of our conversations that we have, yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Mark is pretty much a dick in that category. He'll be like, no, I wrote this game. This is how it's going to be. Suck it.
We need a good, strong dick at the helm. That's what we need. Glad
we are a lot of us pretty stubborn people.
Bobo Dayak +1. There we go. Any other questions for JB? And JB
is a pretty stubborn dude too, so don't think that somehow Mark is the only stubborn person over there.
Yeah, how long have you been bothering JB to get on here?
Stubborn, I know.
Like sometimes our discussions get a little feisty because he gets so stubborn.
Just means that you have passion for it.
Yep, I agree.
Here's a question I have for actually the two of you. How did you guys find each other?
DG?
Yeah, DG.
DG. So he's to blame. Okay.
Yeah, Drunken God in chat there. He got a gig. He is one of the mods on the CU.
Well, he got that after I got to know him, but
oh, fair enough.
Yeah. I don't know. It was some game he got me to play with y'all, and then it just, I forget what it was. I don't know if DG remembers. But this was like first year of me at CSE. DG was like, "Yo, play this game," because I play games all the time. I hop into tons of games, and so I ended up playing with Plague and got along with all of them there mostly, and liked them. So
been playing with them. eHarmony.
So he tends to, since he hops so many games, there's so many like kind of we're so in between games right now that he always ends up with his little like Narth or Georgie or somebody will go fly off with you on some crazy tangent of a game for a while, and then
yeah, like I haven't played any mainline Plague games actually. I mean, I tried Arcade a couple times, but no, we basically just kind of have our own little thing. We're like, oh, we're gonna play Destiny 2 for a couple months, or we're gonna play Ark for a couple months. We'll do Life is Feudal or whatever.
I would say the first game that we have actually at a well organized level played together was Destiny 2.
Yep.
And honestly, if Destiny 2 hadn't shitbagged itself so much with its hi, we're gonna sell you DLC on expansion. Oh, did you complete that in a week? Awesome!
Yeah, we actually had we had consistent raid groups multiple times a week with Destiny, and we were playing that for a while.
Yeah.
Through a couple of the expansions until we just kind of all petered out.
Yeah, people were just frustrated. Honestly, I was frustrated with the expansion system. Like, I got to pay more for another week's worth of content and some more exotics or whatever like that. Like, okay, cool. That's stuff they should have put in for free in my book, but whatever. Hey, Drunken God, I assume your project for CU with Gondrum and a few others stopped, huh? Oh God, that's some ancient history. This is before CU even like when they were just starting their Kickstarter and everything like that. Gondrum, DG, I, and a bunch of other people were writing basically a design doc for CU, and we were going to submit it. And we're like, we didn't expect them to like be like, oh, we're totally going to use your design doc. But like, we were hoping that they would skim it and go, oh, that's a neat idea or something like that. And like, pick something out of it that might have been useful. But yeah, we've got shut down pretty hard by CSE too.
Well, there's some legal issues with that. Like if you take a document from somebody like that, like there's obligation of like, you can legally come to us and be like, well, we gave you this idea and blah, 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 and we want money for it. And so we can't take it in that sense that way. But like, posting some comments on our forums is all fine because that's like, anything you post on our forums and tell us about, we own, right? So
right.
So it's kind of how we communicate with people that way and get ideas, forums and Discord of like, because it's kind of like expected that you're publicly giving the information away and it's not like, yours, right?
Wow. So Bobo knows all the way back to the whole Gondrum like thing. That's interesting. Like I don't want to know who the whole Bobo Deoc is more. Like wow. That was an intense thing though. I mean, we were literally having like bi-weekly meetings, like working on this doc. It was really impressive. I think was there 6 or 8 of us, DG, and yeah, we were just like we'd vote on like, all right, well, what do you think of this idea? Well, I like this idea. Like we finally like it was like a caucus. We were like negotiating until we could pull enough people to our side to be like, yep, we win.
See, you guys could create your own game studio. There you go.
Yeah.
You got all the elements of it right there.
So we'll touch on one last thing. It's the hot topic that everybody is grumbling about, but is we'll give it for what it is. Well, actually, before I go that far, I'm going to ask something that was misspoke, but I just want you to confirm it. Development on CU has never stopped, right?
No, we never stopped development on CU. CU development has been ongoing in conjunction with the other project as well.
All right. And now MJ mentioned that a lot of things from CU were used as assets, basically, and coding and whatnot brought over, which is showed an example from the use of the engine, the fact that they put 1,000 to 2,000 mobs on the screen, all that type of stuff. Did you work at all on the UI for that, or did you work on anything back end, or did they steal any code from anywhere for that you were working on? Or I use it lightly, but
I mean, there's like definitely the UI. Like I kind of worked in the similar stuff that I worked on for CU. Like when it comes to just UI and API and stuff in general, like there's only a couple of us. As you know, there's 2 people that do UI. So like we kind of had to both work on both. So did the UI, but like as far as like the API and stuff, we've made some changes specifically for Ragnarok, but also is able to be used for CU. Like as part of it, one of the things I think I had mentioned, I rewrote the group system recently. That used to be on its own server. We pushed that into the API server, which can be horizontally scaled, handles all the group functions, but they basically write the state into Redis so that we can have as many API servers as we want, and then all the group stuff is handled on that server. Because we needed to be able to scale out more for Ragnarok than we had been for testing for CU, where with CU stuff, we'd only been ever just running one API server per any like shard server channel, right? So with Ragnarok, we have to be able to run multiple, which is where we needed to go with for CU anyways down the road, but that pushed it up forward of getting that horizontal scalability done sooner. So that got put in there so that will perform probably mostly faster, but it'll definitely scale, which there was like scaling limits we had before in that, and that kind of mostly took that away.
Cool. As a developer, was this I'm going to call it side project for a lack of a better thing to call it. Was this enjoyable? Was this fun for you as developers? Was it kind of like a morale boost internally as, hey, we can work on something and actually get something done, or no?
It was definitely, I like that we changed a lot of our, I guess, production processes of how we go about like doing tasks and running our sprints and everything, in order to try and get something like more finalized, ready, more working than,
tangible.
It works, and there's like this edge case and this edge case, but it's like, it works, and that has definitely been refreshing and nice to get that change and work in that manner.
Cool. Very cool. Well, it doesn't look like Chet has.
They're still talking about your document. I blame you.
Yeah, I started something. Which
it's like they're not even paying attention to this. They're talking about.
Yeah.
Remember that document? Can you believe that's 7 years ago now? Jesus Christ. Time flies when you're waiting for an MMO to launch.
Say what?
We're working on one.
Like, I'm not even paying attention.
Trying to build one. Yes.
Do you guys have any last questions for JB? Say that now.
Yep.
Anything at all? Shoe size, boxers, briefs, earmuffs, beanie.
Remember that time at that bar? I believe that bar was called Up Down. And we played the hell out of Killer Queen.
We did.
To the point, we have gotten so into Killer Queen now that like we now pulled up the map so we can start. Killer Queen actually has a site map where they locate all their Killer Queen machines in the whole entire country. We're now using that to determine when the guild cookouts are and where they're going to be located. Because we need Killer Queen machines. It's like it's become a tradition now.
Here's a question from Bobo, and I'll change it just a little bit. But are you anxious to play the game? Are you, JB, getting excited to play the game based on its current development? And then the second part of that, are you as a development team, staff at CSE, are you guys getting excited, anxious to play this game?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been way too long. I want to get playing. I want to get these features in, and especially with this thing we've been doing with Ragnarok, it kind of it's less of a why are we not there yet? It's like, okay, we know what we need to do to get there. Let's get there.
So the team has that feeling, not just MJ.
Yeah,
we know what we need to do to get there. We just have to go do it. Okay, well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
MJ could be a little dodgy on that direction.
Well, I mean, sometimes the guy, sometimes the visionary, the leader at the top, has that vision. They know where they need to go. They know how to get there. But and sometimes it takes a little while for the team to get to that point where it's like, oh, okay, now we know what we need to do. So the fact that you guys are at that point where you all know what it is, that's a cool thing. So. Well, Gladius says, do you think long production times for CU and SC will hurt future Kickstarters?
Yes, 100%. Unfortunately, when it comes to large Kickstarters like ours, in the millions of dollars, that hurts other Kickstarters from smaller studios that have smaller asks from potentially getting funded, because people see these things are like, can they do it with that? They're delayed 4 years with that much money. So a lot of people just lose faith in Kickstarter in general, which I think is a great tool. And I've backed a lot of games that have actually come out already, and one of them's even working on a sequel right now on another Kickstarter
in the same time frame.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. Thank you very much, JB, for coming and chit-chat with us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection with CU. And hopefully we see a wonderful future with Camelot and Unchained within year and a half.
It was good to get to know you, JB. That was enjoyable.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Other than that, do you want to give a little advertisement there for the old community town hall, Zaylan?
Oh, this Sunday.
Give it because you're here.
This Sunday town hall will bring together a number of community leaders that are here to talk about Ragnarok, the announcement of CU, whether good, bad, ugly, all that kind of stuff. But
don't watch it, JB; it will kill your soul.
We'll kind of get a temperature from leaders and even some officers within a lot of the communities that are within SGL. So that's what's on tap for Sunday. If you haven't already and you have a Prime account with Twitch, please click that subscribe button. That helps a lot. Or at least click follow. That helps too. And I appreciate you all being here. And everybody still loves you, according to Gladius. So.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks.
Plague State, does that TT2KB episode, does that go up on YouTube?
Oh yeah, support Malice more. He was on
TT2KB, Tabletop to Keyboard. And it's a show that Gladius runs, and also one of my former roommates. And they talk about Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing in general, stuff like that. And they did a show on live-action role-playing. And yes, I'm a super nerd, and I did like 12 years as a hardcore LARPer nerd. So come listen to me talk about LARP and all different kind of aspects. And we had a great conversation for about freaking 2 hours. And they're like, oh, we need to wrap up. I'm like, really? Didn't we just start? So yeah, it was good times. So let's wrap this up, and you all have a great night.
All right. See y'all later. Thank you for coming out.